Welcome to Thinking Deeper by 6-7. Today we are taking a deep dive into the ultimate human origin. Where does evil come from? Are we biologically wired to do bad things? Is it a cosmic battle between God and the devil? Or does morality just vanish without the concept of an all-seeing creator? We are looking at a fascinating documentary exploring the story of God and human evil alongside a comprehensive historical analysis of Zoroastrianism, humanity's oldest continuous religion. We're going to untangle the concepts of God, the absence of God, and the physical roots of our darkest impulses.
Yeah, and it is an incredibly complex landscape to navigate.
Oh, absolutely.
And it fundamentally changes how we view ourselves. We are going to take you on a journey from the brain scans of psychopathic killers to the ancient fire temples of Iran, exploring how human beings, whether through a secular scientific lens or a deeply religious one, have tried to explain, contain, and ultimately defeat evil.
Right. And before we step into that first laboratory, just a quick note for you listening. If you like my channel, please subscribe and press the like button.
Yeah, it really helps out.
It does. It really helps us bring you more of these massive, mind-bending deep dives. So let's unpack this, because before we look at how ancient people invented the concept of a cosmic god to explain the darkness in the world.
Right. The theological side.
Exactly. We have to start with the modern materialistic view. The atheist's ground zero, if you will. What if evil isn't spiritual at all? What if it's just a biological glitch?
And that is the exact premise neuroscientist Dr. Kiehl has spent his career investigating.
Right.
His approach is entirely secular. He strips away all the theology. He looks at what we call evil strictly through the lens of biology and brain wiring.
Just pure science.
Exactly.
Right.
And to do this, he's actually taken mobile MRI machines into high-security prisons. He scanned the brains of over 800 psychopathic criminals.
800? I mean, that is a staggering data set.
It really is.
It's not just a few anomalies. It's this comprehensive map of the criminal mind.
Yeah.
And there's one incredibly extreme case from his research that really stands out.
Right. The prisoner serving a life sentence.
Yeah. He scored in the 99th percentile for psychopathy. This is a man who committed kidnapping, rape, and murder. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, his response was chilling.
Totally. When the interviewers asked him why he did it, they were expecting like some dark, twisted manifesto. But he didn't have a master plan.
No, not at all.
He said it was just a spur-of-the-moment thing. He had an impulse, and he simply acted on it. And worst of all, he displayed zero remorse. He literally looked right at the interviewer and said, I don't see emotions like everybody else.
Right. And for a long time, society would just label a person like that as a monster, and just lock them away.
Just a bad seed.
Exactly. But Dr. Kiehl's MRI scans of this man's brain physically show us the how and the why behind that lack of remorse.
The actual biology of it.
Right. When you look at a healthy brain, there's an area called the orbital frontal cortex. It sits right above the eyes.
Okay.
And this region is absolutely crucial for integrating emotional valuation with decision-making. It's essentially the hardware that regulates empathy and controls impulses.
So it keeps us from acting on every crazy thought we have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in this 99th percentile psychopath, that specific area of the brain is significantly reduced in density and activity compared to the average inmate.
Wow.
Yeah, the physical neurological structure required to actually feel remorse is practically missing.
So if the human brain is a car, this guy's brakes, the orbital frontal cortex, are just completely missing.
That's a great way to put it.
Like he's driving 100 miles an hour down the highway, and there is absolutely no mechanical mechanism inside the vehicle to stop it from crashing.
Right. And Dr. Kiehl's MRI machines are basically the mechanic's diagnostic tool, proving those brake pads were never even installed at the factory.
Oh, man.
The driver isn't choosing not to brake. The pedal just isn't connected to anything.
But wait. If he literally doesn't have the brain matter to feel empathy, calling him evil feels like calling a blind man evil for stepping on your foot. How can science or society justify punishing someone for bad biology? I mean, if an atheistic, purely scientific worldview says this man is just poorly wired, does evil even exist? Or is it just a biological disease that erases free will?
Well, you've just hit on the core tension of the materialistic worldview. It's a profound philosophical dilemma.
It really is.
Because neuroscience actively challenges our traditional, deeply held concepts of moral culpability. If we reduce human behavior entirely to chemistry, neural pathways, and brain anatomy, then evil as a moral category starts to dissolve completely.
It just becomes pathology.
Exactly. And if it's just biology, it forces the justice system to ask how we can rightfully punish someone who lacks the physical capacity to do otherwise.
Which makes the universe seem incredibly deterministic.
Very much so. It suggests we're all just biological machines following the programming of our meat computers.
It leaves us with this depressing lack of free will. It's bleak.
Yeah, it's not exactly an uplifting thought.
No. If we're just chemical reactions, then nothing we do actually matters on a moral level. So it makes total sense that historically humans went in the exact opposite direction.
Absolutely.
To understand where the Western concept of an all-powerful God, a literal devil, and the supreme importance of human choice came from, we have to travel back in time. We're going to around 1500 BCE to the Iranian plateau and look at the emergence of Zoroastrianism.
What's fascinating here is how revolutionary Zoroastrianism was.
Right, because religion looked very different back then.
Completely different. Before the prophet Zoroaster, the prevailing religious frameworks across the globe were mostly polytheistic. Lots of gods fighting each other.
Like the Greeks or the Egyptians.
Exactly. And time was seen as cyclical, just endless repeating loops of existence. Zoroaster introduced something entirely new to human thought.
Which was linear time.
Yes, linear time, which means history is moving toward a definitive climax. And he introduced a universe built on a fundamental cosmic dualism.
A literal war zone, good versus evil, playing out across the cosmos.
Precisely. On one side, you have Ahura Mazda, the wise lord. He is the supreme creator who made the universe purely through thought and intention.
Okay, so the ultimate good guy.
Right. He represents perfect goodness, light, and order. On the exact opposite side, you have Angra Mainyu, the hostile, destructive spirit.
The adversary.
Yes. And critically, and this is really essential to understand, Angra Mainyu is uncreated.
Wait, uncreated?
Yeah. He wasn't made by God as some sort of fallen angel. He just exists as the fundamental opposing force to creation itself.
Wait, so in this ancient system, God and the devil are in a literal cosmic boxing match, and God isn't omnipotent over evil right now.
That's exactly right.
That is completely different from the all-powerful God most people think of today.
It is entirely different. And it is a brilliant, elegant solution to what philosophers call the problem of evil, or theodicy.
Because that's a huge stumbling block for a lot of people.
It's arguably the single greatest engine for atheism in human history. Think about the classic theological trap.
Yeah.
If God is all-powerful and entirely good, why does a 99th percentile psychopath exist? Why is there bone cancer in children?
Yeah, if God can't stop it, he's not all-powerful.
Exactly. And if he can stop it but won't, he's not entirely good. That paradox has driven millions away from religion.
Right. The sheer existence of random suffering is the ultimate argument that an all-powerful, loving creator cannot possibly exist.
Exactly. But Zoroastrianism sidesteps that atheist trap entirely by limiting God's immediate power.
Ah.
Ahura Mazda is perfectly good, so he absolutely did not create evil. Evil Angra Mainyu is a genuine external alien invasion into a fundamentally good physical world.
Wow. So God is fighting a war.
Yes. Ahura Mazda is fighting this dark infection with everything he has, but he faces real, potent opposition. And here's the crucial part that directly counters the depressing determinism of the brain scans.
Okay, what is it?
To win this cosmic war, Ahura Mazda relies on radical free will.
Oh, wow. So unlike the materialistic view where you're just a victim of your missing orbital frontal cortex, here, your individual choices are the most important thing in the universe.
They matter on a literal cosmic scale. Zoroastrianism posits an ongoing grinding battle between Asha, which is truth, order, and righteousness, and Druj, which is the lie, chaos, and destruction.
Right.
In this framework, human beings are not pawns. We are active, vital, moral agents. Every single time you make a choice, what they encapsulate in the maxim, good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, you are literally tilting the scales of the universe toward the light.
We are basically frontline soldiers in the cosmic trenches.
Exactly.
That is so empowering. It gives humanity ultimate agency. But Zoroastrianism gave us this massive macro-level cosmic framework. As human beliefs evolved and spread across the globe, different cultures started to localize this battle.
Right, they had to bring it down to a human level.
They needed to make it tangible. They tied evil directly to human nature and daily life rather than just an external cosmic adversary.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see how different societies engineered psychological mechanisms to make sense of that internal struggle.
Yeah.
Let's look at ancient Egypt. around 1370 BC. If you walk into the tomb of Mina in Luxor, you will see this incredible, intricate depiction of the weighing of the heart ceremony.
The ultimate final exam before you can enter the afterlife.
Yes, the Egyptians externalized moral culpability into a physical weight. In their afterlife, your heart is placed on a divine scale against the feather of Mat.
Who is the goddess of truth, right?
Yes, truth and cosmic balance. The psychological mechanism here is fascinating. The belief was that if you spent your life lying, stealing, or causing suffering, those actions literally made your heart physically heavy.
Like it actually weighed more?
Exactly. And a heavy heart meant you failed the test. Your soul was devoured. No afterlife.
So they turned abstract morality into a measurable physical metric. But then you look at early Christianity and the concept of evil shifts again.
It moves inward.
Yeah. It moves from a weight on a scale to an internalized biological stain. The concept of original sin tracing back to Adam and Eve. Reverend Kutakala, a theologian, explains this brilliantly.
He really does.
He says that because of this original transgression at the dawn of humanity, there is a little bit of the demonic-like and inherent bend toward selfishness, violence, and death in every single one of us.
It's a fascinating psychological equalizer. By claiming everyone inherits this stain, it strips away human pride.
Right, nobody's perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone is fundamentally flawed, which means everyone equally requires salvation. But then if you travel to Varanasi, India, and look through the lens of everyday Hinduism, the paradigm shifts entirely again.
Oh, this part is wild.
It is. Their evil isn't necessarily a cosmic villain fighting God, nor is it an inherited genetic stain. Often what everyday people experience as evil like sudden financial ruin, crop failure, or unexplainable sickness is believed to be caused by the unhappy soul of an ancestor.
I want you to really picture how different this is. Think about it. In Christianity, evil is like a genetic stain you inherit. But in Hinduism, evil is just a misunderstood, grumpy ghost who needs a good meal and a pair of shoes.
Literally.
Literally, people in Varanasi are offering their ancestor spirits honey, bananas, and physical umbrellas to make them happy and set them free. There's even a story of a wandering goblin who causes pain for 15 years, gets purified by the god Shiva, and transforms into a benign protector.
That grumpy ghost metaphor is perfect because it highlights the psychological utility of the belief.
Yeah.
Think about it. If your crop fails and it's just random universe chaos, you are powerless. But if your crop fails because your great-grandfather is cold in the afterlife, well, you can fix that.
You can buy him a spiritual umbrella.
Exactly. It gives people a tangible, transactional way to regain control over the terrifying unpredictability of life.
Exactly. It makes the chaos of the universe negotiable. And what's amazing is that whether it's the literal weight of an Egyptian heart, the inherent stain of Adam's sin, or the unrest of an Indian ancestor spirit, every single one of these religious frameworks provides something that a purely secular neuroscientific view completely lacks.
A mechanism for redemption.
Yes. A clear path for cleansing. If evil is just an atrophied orbital frontal cortex, you're just broken machinery. You're stuck.
Yeah, there's no fixing that with a prayer.
Right. But if evil is a spiritual condition, even a heavy or stained one, there are rituals, prayers, and actions you can take to purify yourself. It gives humanity a roadmap out of the dark.
But that raises a massive psychological question, which brings us right back to the atheism versus religion debate.
Okay, lay it on me.
If all these religious frameworks exist to give us a roadmap and keep our behavior in check, do humans actually need the concept of a watching God to behave ourselves?
Rav.
Can we just be good on our own without the threat of a heavy heart or a cosmic scale?
Enter psychologist Jesse Bering and the Princess Alice experiment.
Oh, this is fascinating.
This is one of the most revealing psychological tests I've ever heard of.
It really is. Bering wanted to test the evolutionary psychology of belief. He brought young kids into a room to play a dart game where they could win a highly desirable prize.
But the game was rigged.
Exactly. The catch was, the rules were designed to make it almost impossible to win fairly. When he left the first group of kids alone in the room, explicitly telling them no one was watching.
They immediately cheated.
Immediately.
They moved the throwing line, they walked right up to the board and placed the dart in the bullseye. Which, let's be honest, is totally normal human behavior when you think you can get away with it and secure a reward.
Right, it's basic self-interest. But with the second group, he changed one variable. He pointed to an empty chair in the corner and told them that an invisible, magical being named Princess Alice was sitting right there, watching their every move.
Just the suggestion of someone watching.
And the results were stunning. The cheating plummeted to almost zero. The mere suggestion of an invisible watcher overrode their self-interest.
That's incredible.
One little girl even walked over and waved her hand over the empty chair to see if she could physically feel Princess Alice sitting there.
So, what does this all mean for us? I mean, let me ask you directly, listening right now. Would you rob a bank if you were 100% guaranteed that no one would ever know, no one got physically hurt, and there were absolutely no consequences?
It's a tough mirror to look into.
It really is. But if I apply the Princess Alice logic to humanity, is human morality really just the fear of getting caught by a divine security camera? That feels incredibly cynical.
It does.
It basically implies that atheists can't be trusted to be moral because they don't have an imaginary friend keeping them in line.
It does seem deeply cynical on the surface, and from an evolutionary psychology perspective, many scientists argue exactly that.
That we invented God to behave.
Right, that society invented the concept of an all-seeing deity as a survival tool to enforce tribal cooperation through the fear of divine judgment. However, the deepest theological philosophies reject that cynicism completely. Let's go back to Zoroastrianism for a moment. They have an ancient sacred prayer called the Ashem Vohu. It explicitly demands that believers choose Asha, truth and righteousness, simply for the sake of goodness itself.
Not for a reward.
Exactly. Not because you want a reward in a luxurious heaven, and certainly not because you're terrified of being tortured in hell.
You do good just because it is objectively good to do.
Yes. And what's incredible is that this ancient prayer anticipates Kantian ethics by thousands of years.
Immanuel Kant.
Right. The philosopher Immanuel Kant argued that true moral worth only comes from doing your duty because it is right, not because you're calculating the benefits or avoiding punishment.
Okay, I see.
So while the Princess Alice effect might be how we train young children or govern basic primal societal impulses, the mature religious philosophy says that true morality is an internal alignment with truth, completely independent of the divine security camera.
Okay, so whether we are motivated by bad brain wiring, original sin, a desire to appease grumpy ancestors, or a profound philosophical alignment with truth, the stark reality is that people do commit evil.
Right.
Real, devastating, world-altering evil. The question then becomes, is a person permanently marked by the evil they've done? Can they truly be saved, or is some wiring just too fundamentally broken?
Well, the human experience provides powerful real-world examples of radical transformation that defy the deterministic brain scan model.
Like who?
Take the story of Brian Widner. For 16 years, Brian was a neo-Nazi skinhead enforcer.
Just a deeply violent guy.
Very. By his own admission, his neck and face were entirely covered in violent tattoos. He operated with borderline sociopathic detachment, and he literally wanted to hurt the world.
He said he felt absolutely no remorse during that entire decade and a half. It completely echoes the 99th percentile psychopath from Dr. Kiehl's study.
It really does.
But Brian's story takes a sharp, unexpected turn. He has a son. And holding that child, he realizes he cannot bring an innocent life into his dark, hateful world. He describes encountering a godly presence, a profound spiritual awakening that completely shattered his hateful worldview.
It completely changed his internal landscape.
Yeah, but he didn't just change his mind. He went through something incredibly visceral. To match his internal change, he underwent 2.5 years of agonizing laser tattoo removal on his face.
And the way he describes that process is vital. He didn't just want to look different.
Right.
He described the excruciating physical pain of the laser burning his skin as a necessary form of penance. He actively took on that pain and a daily physical reminder of the suffering he had caused others for 16 years. He was physically and spiritually burning the evil out of his life.
It is the definition of radical redemption. And what blows my mind is how perfectly Brian's laser removal mirrors the ultimate conclusion of Zoroastrianism.
Oh, the end times.
Yes, which has the most breathtaking concept of the end of the world I think I've ever encountered.
Yeah, their eschatology, which is the theological term for the doctrine of the end of time, is called the Psychopaths.
The final renovation.
Exactly, the final renovation of the world. In this ancient belief system, at the end of human history, all of humanity is resurrected, and everyone must face a final judgment. But it is not a courtroom with scales and a judge.
Right.
It is an ordeal by molten metal.
A literal river of liquid metal covering the earth.
Yes. Every single human soul who has ever lived must wade through this cosmic river of molten metal. But the subjective experience of that river is entirely dependent on your moral alignment in life.
How so?
For the righteous, Those who spent their lives aligned with Asha and truth, wading through the molten metal feels soothing. It feels like walking through warm milk.
But for the wicked.
For the wicked, it burns with the absolute terrifying agony of actual molten metal. However, and this is the vital distinction that separates it from modern concepts of damnation, it is not an eternal hell.
It's not forever.
No. The fire purifies. It slowly burns away the corruption of the druge, the lies, the hatred, or the evil they accumulate in life.
Wait, I really want to make sure I understand the scale of this. Are you saying that even the worst of the worst,
Yes.
the 99th percentile psychopath with the missing brain breaks, or the neo-Nazi enforcer who spent 16 years wanting to hurt the world, they eventually get purified by this river and go to heaven?
Yes, they do. That is the profound concept of universal salvation. Unlike later faiths that develop the terrifying idea of an eternal, inescapable hell where God tortures people forever, Zoroastrianism views evil as a temporary infection of the soul.
Like a sickness.
Exactly. The punishment is agonizing, yes, but its ultimate purpose is reformative, not punitive. The molten metal burns away the disease. In the end, Angra, the destructive spirit, the source of evil itself, is entirely annihilated.
It's just gone.
It doesn't just get locked in a cage. It ceases to exist entirely. What is left behind is a perfected, diverse creation where every single human soul is fully restored, cleansed, and united with God. It is a radically optimistic view of humanity's destiny.
That is just, it's breathtaking. The idea that no one is permanently broken, nothing is beyond repair. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We've journeyed